imagine what the powers that be on our planet would do to get a hold of that kind of technology.
Yeah, they would give their eye teeth or spend us into national debt to, so far that we couldn't see daylight anymore. But these governments must recognize that this is a real phenomenon, and the fact that they're staying so reticent about that has me a little bit worried. I'm more worried about our government and its reticence vis-a-vis the UFO phenomenon than I am worried about the aliens. So,
yeah, I would think, especially since the To the Stars Academy, and the Pentagon officials came out in the New York Times article December 17th or December 16th of 2017, and they actually admitted the same thing, that these things exist and they're studying them.
Yep. It's
fascinating.
It's intriguing to consider how long they're going to be able to keep it silent and how long they're going to continue just remaining mum about this phenomenon.
Yes.
In my opinion, we've rounded a corner with respect to the UFO phenomenon in the sense, and I may have made this point in past programs with you in the past, but I think it's worth repeating. We seem to have rounded a corner vis-a-vis UFOs in the sense that they are showing themselves more clearly. They don't seem to be as concerned as was once the case about whether human beings on the ground or in the air see them or not. It's almost as if we're approaching some kind of threshold, or maybe have passed it by. But I will not be surprised. I can't see the future, obviously, unlike so many UFO investigators, but I say that facetiously. But it seems to be the case that unusual things are happening that frequently that didn't used to happen at all. So
yes.
I think I will not be surprised if we see some kind of major event a la the Phoenix Lights of 22 years ago occur in our near future.
There definitely seems to be building up to something like that with all these close and, very numerous reports that seem to be coming in. And again, you were mentioning even some of the other interesting reports of even seeing aliens walking on the down the old country roads in August of last year. I think you mentioned that as well. So have you got any other new reports that you want to run by us tonight?
I'd like to read another couple of reports of green lights, if I may. In
Great.
fact, I've got 4 more stacked up here. The next one, following the sighting over Chihuahua, comes from the 29th of December. I believe that was a Saturday night, if I'm not mistaken, at 5:46 p.m. The city of Ojai, California, I think that's down in the L.A. area, 2 observers saw a green ball of light with a tail fall very fast from the sky. They report that it came down almost vertically. That's an interesting fact. Not impossible, for it could have been a meteor. I can't guarantee that that object was not a meteor. But it leads me to the next report that comes from Hurricane, West Virginia. 2 adult observers at 7:30 p.m. on January 7th, Monday, saw again a green light that just shot down, neon green they describe it, a very intense neon green light, shot down out of the sky and disappeared behind the horizon. It's very interesting report.
Are any of these reports including trails at all of light or fire or anything like that, or is it just a light traveling that fast?
It's a light. In some cases, even in the reports I've already cited during this program, people report that they have very faint trails behind them. That is, of course, reminiscent of a meteor, but more often than not, meteors are not green. They're oftentimes white or blue or sometimes red as they slow down and cool down. But more often than not, they fragment and they give off chunks of burning material and they leave a smoky trail across the sky. Not always, of course. Each meteor is unique, and our Earth's atmosphere is struck by about 10 to the 12th power number of meteors every day, every 24-hour period.
Wow.
The planet gains hundreds of tons of material every day because of meteor collisions with our atmosphere. But it's very unusual for a meteor to be green. There are only two reasons I can think of that would explain why a meteor is green. Either it has copper in it, which fluoresces green when it's heated to a high temperature, or they're so hot that they super excite oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere, and that causes green light to be given off. But it's very unusual for a meteor to be green.
Yeah. As opposed to those many orange fireballs that people are also reporting as well.
Yeah, the orange fireball phenomenon, which started, and people can see this on our website, started about the last week of May of 2012. So we're coming up on 7 years that has been, I would say, I'm guessing now, I haven't quantified it by counting all of them, but it is the type of report that I see most frequently. People reporting anywhere from 1 to 150, some cases 200, red, orange, amber, or gold lights hovering in the night sky. In some instances, they claim that one or more of these lights are seen to suddenly accelerate and go streaking out of sight. Clearly not Chinese lanterns or so-called sky lanterns. What they are, I have no idea, Michael, but the phenomenon appears to be very real, and it's probably the most commonplace type of sighting that is reported to the National UFO Reporting Center.
Isn't that fascinating? And, it would be very interesting. You say that this orange fireball phenomena basically started, well, as far as you're concerned, the report started in May of 2012. I'm wondering if someone would be able to do a study or a correlation of what might have happened on the planet at that period of time to warrant this interest by orange fireballs. I don't know if there's any correlation at all, but that is fascinating. May 2012.
Yeah. The state director of MUFON for Utah, I believe, has initiated a study. She started the study a couple years ago. I've been on her program. She has a radio broadcast. And we've talked about this. And I think she is pursuing it, but until you can reach up and grab one of these things with a butterfly net and bring it down to a laboratory bench, disassemble it, and see what makes it tick, see what's on the inside of it, all you can do, I'm afraid, is guess at what their significance is.
Well, and you know what? That brings up the interesting synchronicity that you mentioned, whether we could grab a hold of one of these objects and study it. Just last Tuesday, this past Tuesday night, the Project Blue Book episode on History Channel was about the episode where a craft actually lands in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and starts a fire, and the military comes in and actually grabs the craft that they say is just a meteor and take it off to study it as well. That was a fascinating episode on Project Blue Book. If people haven't checked that out yet, every Tuesday, and I think it's 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it might even be 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on history. You can check out the new dramatic television series based on Dr. J. Allen Hynek's study with the U.S. Air Force from 1952 to 1969, the entire phenomena of UFOs, called Project Blue Book.
I've heard of the program. I've only seen the trailers to date. I haven't seen the first episode, but if it appears on the internet, I will watch it for sure. I've actually spoken in Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, there was a very alleged, a very dramatic incident that occurred that involved, and I have to use the word allegedly again, involved the interaction between some residents of a farm and some creatures dressed in silver suits or clothing of some sort. It lasted almost the whole night.
Exactly.
Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I think 1955, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you have a photographic memory, Peter. That's exactly right. That's what the episode was about last Tuesday night on Project Blue Book. It was a country rural family sitting in their small farmhouse, and they are literally attacked for hours on end by these little, almost impish-looking aliens, they're calling them, and they even got into gun battles with these things and couldn't kill them, and they even called the police and the sheriff, and they came out and kind of settled things down, and investigators left, and they came back again and still harassed these farm families. So that was quite an event.
There was one episode, according to the witnesses, in which the occupants of a house, they were barricaded in a farmhouse after they had seen an orange light descend out of the sky and land on the other side of a small forest of trees. And shortly after is when the really unusual aspects of this sighting began to occur. But at one point, the men went out on the front porch that had an overhang on it. And one guy was walking underneath the edge of it, and one of the aliens allegedly reached around and touched this guy's hair, which scared the holy gee willikers out of him.
Oh, yeah. No, that was a fascinating story, and they really couldn't take the time in the episode to get into all of that detail of what happened to this family. But if you read that story, Hopkinsville, Kentucky UFO, it will raise the hair on the back of your neck.
Yeah. It was a good sighting.
And, man. Yeah. Wonderful. You got a couple more?
Reliable. Couple more reports. This is two that occurred. I call them self-corroborating reports because they both were seen from points on the East Coast. The first one that I received was from Quincy, Massachusetts. Two witnesses saw a green fireball traveling low at very, very high speed. And when they say traveling low, I presume they're suggesting that it was flying almost parallel to the horizon. But a man and wife saw a green fireball streaking to the east. As I was reading that case, a second report came in from Oakdale, New York. Quincy, by the way, Quincy, Massachusetts is due south of Boston. As I was reading that report, a second report came in from an observer in Oakdale, New York, who reports that he was watching the late night show on television, and at 40 minutes past midnight, identical to the time given for the sighting from Quincy, I'm reading from this report at 04:40 a.m., a bright green light-colored glowing sphere about the size of a basketball, from his point of view, became visible approximately 50 feet off the ground. In the latter case, in this report from Oakdale, Long Island, New York, the gentleman reports that the object was moving very rapidly and suddenly changed its trajectory across the sky, did, from his vantage point, about a 90-degree turn. Obviously, meteors can't do that.
Oh, my. And about the same time and the same kind of sighting. And do we know how far Quincy is from this Oakdale? Was it the kind of thing that could have happened if it was going that fast? Maybe they saw the same thing?
Absolutely. I'm convinced they did see the same thing.